Big hey now.
We're
And we're
live.
live.
Woohoo.
We're live.
Hello and welcome to the 230th week of Tuesday Night Live. I'm Matty Allen with Fast Abdul and Crispy Man of Hexfire.io behind the controls. What's up, guys?
What
It's
is up?
been a wild couple days in crypto.
And that's
Pretty
when I
happy
was
about
looking.
that.
I was reading the chat and I was seeing Red Bull Richard. Hey, there's different size Red Bull cans, by the way. They're not all the same.
True.
Just saying. There's different sizes.
Is Red Bull sponsoring us again? What, did I miss something?
Oh, somebody was talking about it in the chat. Yeah. So. Woo. Yeah. So you say a lot of stuff goes on. The only thing I know about is the SEC or the update, or the non-update.
I think
Right.
that was pretty juicy news.
Yeah, like this
Confirmation.
this whole SEC thing, finally being over with, as far as not counting the 60 days that they have to argue the legal pieces of it, which seem pretty airtight. Yeah, but I mean it's pretty good news after 17 months of the corrupt SEC, you know, persecuting people who are just trying to do free speech and blockchain and play by the rules. And this time, the people who played by the rules won.
Yeah.
That's us.
I think we haven't. I don't think that we have seen the reaction. At least I haven't seen the reaction to the community that it really deserves. And that might be okay that that's how it's gone down. But I think longer term, it's it's such a huge thing. Like it's going to be something that people look back on and like, why wasn't that a bigger deal? Maybe, or maybe they will be like it was a huge deal, right? I don't know what'll be said, but in the moment, lots of people excited, but I think people are exhausted at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I mean we're in the middle of a tariff war and a trade war, and Hex and Pulse Chain, like they've been through the ringer. So yeah, I agree with your take, Crispy, that it's very likely that history will look back on this time and be like, why didn't they celebrate more? And it's like, well, kind of the end of 17 months worth of trauma. Sometimes you have to heal a little bit before you can break out the champagne.
A little bit of
Totally.
PTSD. Yeah.
Right.
I don't think people totally understand all the possible implications, right? Like, this could have been one of the things holding us back from getting on, like one of the big three centralized exchanges. It could have been the reason that Rabby Wallet stopped supporting Pulse Chain. It could have attached to many items, many FUD items, without it being directly said, right? So, once that washes away, and it could be the reason that Richard hasn't been streaming, which occurs to me as a definitive possibility that his lawyers would have been like, yeah, no, dude, don't go on stream. You're going to say something. And with that gone, man, it could be totally different.
Right. I mean, we have the 4th annual PulseChainConference.com online coming up in the middle of May here for the second launch anniversary of PulseChain. That's on May 13th. So the days leading up to that, we'll have a conference. And Richard has been known to speak at these conferences, actually all of them until the SEC stuff hit, and even one or two after the SEC stuff had hit in the past 17 months. So yeah, it'll be really exciting to see. Will he stream before the conference? Will he stream at the conference? Like, those are good questions.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, man. I feel like it would be a really big deal for him to stream in some fashion or some way. And I hope that is now the time frame that we're in, and that we're not in the exit stage left, territory. That maybe he never streams again, which some people theorize that's possible. I definitely fall in the camp. I'd like to hear from him. I would.
Oh, yeah. Well, and he's certainly been active on Twitter. When I think a lot of people, a lot of people could have said, yeah, like if there's a court case going on, it's not even wise for the founder to be tweeting. But in this case, the founder was tweeting extensively the whole time, looking out for people, educating people, staying relevant. So, and his comments are turned back on, so that's a step in the right direction that occurred just recently, as you guys know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's huge.
And of course, another like call to action that I would say is that it, it might be really cool if Richard puts his Pulse Chain badge back on. The Pulse Chain Conference Organization Twitter badge. That's something that he actually had for about 30 minutes before Twitter rug pulled the whole program. That was about 14 months ago or something, somewhere in that area. And yeah, so like I'm super excited to see if he'll you know, do whatever it takes now to add that. That'd be really cool.
Totally. And it would increase his reach too, right? Because those give you a 50% view boost. And like, you know, of anybody in Pulse Chain, like he gets the most views already. So they could actually have a notable effect.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, imagine if he comes back doing Twitter Spaces, if he's streaming not only onto YouTube, but also onto Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, Twitter is the financial information capital of the world.
Yep. I asked my nieces and nephews, some of them are in their 20s, if any of them were on Twitter, and they're not. I think it really is like, and I asked them what they thought of it, and they're like, well, isn't that kind of a news thing, right? Like,
Right.
I think it is tied to like 30 plus financials and so on and so forth. So, you know, we need to do something to pick up that younger generation. But that being said, like, you know, my nieces and nephews are all in university and don't have money, so it's not really a problem.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Twitter is it's like incredibly important in politics, finance, and crypto. And then they're trying to be relevant in news, which all of those things have news components. But yeah. So that's a good observation. Didn't Richard have a TikTok for a little while even?
Yeah, he did for a short
Right.
period or two. Yeah, but that was rife with scammers because I don't know if you get those from celebrities, right? But Richard was contacting me every other day, right?
Right.
Hey, Crispy, are you busy right now? No, I'm not busy. What are you wearing? What are you wearing? You don't have any feet pics? Yeah, no.
Anything for you, Richard?
Yeah, that's right. I was like, yeah, come on, man, let's go. I'm taking pictures. No, I'm pretty sure that you know what a scammer looks like. Mostly.
Some of them are good, but like they'll catch me for a minute, right? When it's somebody I recognize who I don't talk to regularly, and they ask me for like, "Can you help me with this?" I'll be like, "Oh, sure, I'll take a look." But then it's like, you know, then they end up asking something weird or be like, "Well, have you heard of this thing? Here, please click on this link." And it's like, "Oh no, that's not good." But
yeah, well, it's bad if you follow, you know, if you follow an account or something. That's how they end up getting that juicy information. They're like, oh, yeah, hi, I am so and so's mom, and I'm just helping him respond to all these messages, and we would like to set up a special, you know, meet and greet with you. You know, but it's only $500 to apply. You know, if you just apply here, send crypto here, right, and then yeah, yes, you're the chosen one.
Right. Like the Nigerian prince scam. That's a classic.
Hey, wait, those are real sometimes. You don't pick on Nigerians. I mean,
right. And yeah, but the scams are getting more advanced nowadays. I get emails from Coinbase that very much look like they're from Coinbase, pretending that there's some security alert and I need to download and use their 12 seed words, which you should never do. And yeah, like crypto takes more and more education. I know another community that I've been like learning from, Texitcoin, they're a layer one, and they're having twice weekly Zoom calls to educate people. Tonight's topic was all about security. So yeah, like I think that even people who are outside of Hex and Pulse Chain, many, even if they don't like us, they recognize that we're very savvy when it comes to DeFi and security and that kind of stuff. And so that's definitely another asset for our community. Good marketing point.
Like the starting point for people who are on Pulse Chain is generally 50% higher for other chains. It's not nearly the same.
So we got that going for us. We're well educated when it comes to DeFi. And yeah, I like your guys' point too about, you know, maybe this whole SEC thing, the battle finally being won again. You know, maybe that will lead to a centralized exchange listing. Maybe it will lead to new opportunities being created for us.
Totally. Did you guys hear about Dipcatcher's idea to make eHex into basically its own chain somehow?
Yeah, that's so
Yeah, I like
exciting,
that.
isn't it?
It's pretty
I like
heavy. I haven't done the deep dive yet. I feel like it's going to take me a couple hours to actually understand.
All right, so a shout out to him for his creativity. I know people are going to call him the D word and all that. But that's okay. He can deal with that part. But from an idea perspective, there are services that'll roll up to L2s for you,
Yeah.
and you can designate your token as the gas token. And so basically, his proposal is to put eHex to use as a gas token. Now, this means that it gives people a place to go develop. That's what it does. Potentially at much lower costs than the costs that are on the Ethereum chain. So there's, the future is not secure as to what will happen with all that. Somebody's going to go build now. Maybe he's going to go build, right? Yep. But essentially, it's a blank slate, and eHex is your gas token. That's the way I think of it, anyways.
Okay, I understand, and it would be like EVM based, basically. So normal things could be built there.
Yeah, there's probably some hoops you got to jump through to make things work tech wise. But I mean,
Pulse chains like that too. So there's definitely some hoops, I can tell you.
I mean, it's a pretty cool concept. Like I think it's definitely would apply to something like entertainment and games, right? So meaning, cheap gas to go do whatever it is you want to go do using applications that are fueled by eHex. I mean, that's how.
Why couldn't you have like DeFi on there? Like just like regular DeFi stuff. Stable coins.
You could. The argument is you already got Pulse Chain. So what are you doing, right?
Yeah,
and it's already a big part in there. But as we've seen with Pulse Chain, the only argument I'd come up with right off the top of my head is that obviously there's times where now it costs me $2-3 to do a transaction in Pulse, right? And I might not have the same situation with an L2, right?
I feel like the Pulse chain gas prices can probably be solved by pushing through some of those Ethereum updates that haven't happened yet. Do you think that's true?
I'm not close enough to know.
Yeah, I'll have to look closer at that. But yeah, we're 3 updates behind.
Right, and that's good to point out. The Flex Net, I think, is what Dipcatcher is calling it. That as far as what I can see from the tweets, it also includes the DEX, and so
there's
that
like
gives
some automated plugins and stuff that allow you to do automated bridging over to ETH.
Yeah. So I mean, he's basically running the game theory of like, what if we went back to the decision point of Hex, having high fees on Ethereum before Ethereum solved their gas problem for now, and what if you just made a Hex centric type of thing instead of creating all the copies? And Dipcatcher is saying that the copies are, as we saw with PDI, like they're a liability. Now I don't know that it'll start off as something, that'll be smooth or that'll be profitable, but I also think it's interesting that he's doing a limited subscription instead of an unlimited sacrifice, and that he's earmarking funds for development. That's something that Pulse Chain also doesn't have. And so if you can make the people rich who are already here and already love Pulse Chain, and you make their eHex more valuable, and you keep making useful things in crypto, I support it.
Yeah. You want me to go positive or negative on this? What do you think?
I want you to give as many different opinions as you can.
I got lots of opinions, man. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, listen, I would never tear the guy down for doing something DeFi, because it's DeFi and you can do what you want to do with it. And that's the whole purpose of this. I do question, why would I split my attention between Pulse Chain and yet another destination? So there's got to be a real call to action for me to want to be involved in it. It doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. It doesn't mean people couldn't make money doing that. But I guess I wouldn't frame it up like strike it rich by going over onto the L2. Now that being said, right, right now it's super profitable for me, though it is a pain in the butt to bridge. Right, but I can see where it's profitable for me to bring it over, bring the EHEX over to the Pulse chain, and add that liquidity to the Pulse chain, therefore supporting the Pulse chain, yada yada yada. So that's kind of like my pro, for that. But again, DeFi, right? So, if he wants to put something up and go do that work, and other people want to join him, well, they're free to make their own community, right?
Right.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you have hex stakes from before the fork, then it seems like we could benefit from whether we participate or not. I would imagine I think that's one of the goals is to
True. True.
to do a revenue share from and again, this is my understanding just from casually reading a few tweets and maybe things would be different or change, but yeah, that there's a profit sharing from the DEX and from the base chain, and then it's making eHex more useful and rare. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I
think the devil's in the details. Fast. What do you think? You finally.
I think the obvious thing that comes up to me is we already have Pulse chains, so we don't need another chain to build on. So I don't like that it takes attention away from Pulse chain, though. The concept of it uses EHEX as gas is pretty cool, and if it works with this, maybe it can get rolled out for something else. Who's to say that you couldn't be using PHEX for gas on a sub chain, a layer 2 for Pulse chain, right? This idea could have legs, and there's layer 2s on Ethereum, off of Ethereum, like Arbitrum and all the different things. But if we get big and we end up with layer 2s to use who knows how many tokens for gas, it sounds like cool tech anyway.
Yeah, and he told me about it when he started talking about it with Calm at first, and there was some sort of technical difficulty with being able to use Calm, the Communist token, having to do with programming and programming that would have to be changed. And so then he did move over to EHEX, which I think is palatable too. But of course, I wasn't looking into it. This is like a dip catcher thing, right? And so as soon as he told me about it, I went and looked, said, yeah, that's pretty cool. And I was like, I could do that with my token or a token. I could pick any token, right? And do that. And then I was thinking about, but what's my purpose? Why?
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that's still cloudy to me. Like, why? Yes, it would drive demand for EHEX, but why? Why do it?
For how long is always the question with such things. Somebody comes up with a new EHEX burner token thingy, and it would drive demand, but it has to have adoption. So I guess my only concern would be does he have the clout and the the social media energy to actually make this something that gets adopted. I know he has the tech skills. I know he's smart. There's no doubt there, right? But can he get the word out enough? Can he bring enough adoption to make it stick?
Yeah, I mean, who makes any of this stuff popular? It's I think it's still up to the community whether a founder is involved or not. I mean, I guess Cardano is it's just relying on Charles and all of his academic types that are working together and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, another stated goal of dip catchers was to work around the discrimination that the rest of crypto has for Richard, him having vampire taxed Bitcoin and made something better, Hex, and then than like a competitor to Ethereum. And so basically that's probably the reason why we never got listed where we should have been.
Could be.
Maybe,
Could
but I
be the
mean,
twerking.
I mean that's some of it. But you also remember the early days, right? With us all talking about, including Richard. It's a very real thing that you have to put up capital, right? The companies aren't just going to list a new token. They're just going to go list it. They have to. That means they got to go buy it to get the reserves, right? And so there's a whole economic argument for why they want tokens loaned, donated, whatever the hell it is they call it, as a fee, right? There's like a whole reason for that, because everybody comes to them, right, and said, hey, list my token. Yeah, they're going to go buy all these.
I mean, that's not what Kraken says in their listing materials now. And they explicitly say that that's not the case. Now, I think that there are still exchanges that are like that. The ones that we deal that kind of you have to deal with in order to get to those. And so maybe it's like a second order type of problem, or whatever. But yeah, hopefully people are following me with that.
The
idea.
The books will be pretty thin unless that company decided to take a risk on the tokens, right, and go buy them themselves.
So the way that a lot of them do it is they they pick a market maker, they let you be the market maker, and so it's like, it's not really up to Kraken to like buy anything or to do anything like that, but they arrange that somebody who bought them or who buys them or already bought them. And I think that there is a lot of corruption there in that system. I've been looking into like Bitmart more and like what they're, and even the one MEXC and everything. Like there's ways that like if you're your own market maker, you can get taken advantage of by algos running in the background, or people who say that they're a market maker for you, and then they keep asking you for more money and stuff. So
I think if they brought like Pulse or Hex onto like Kraken, that the community would provide the liquidity. Like they would come on and they would trade on there and they would use it, and probably even just add some to make it credible, right? Like you probably have multiple whales that would fill the pools on Kraken.
It would be really cool, Maddie, since you have all these connections, get somebody in here who knows what the hell they're talking about. Not that we don't, but that really could shed some light on what the current process is, because I hear all that stuff and I can agree with it, but I'm still coming back to the bottom line is, man, if I really wanted my token listed up there, Hex listed up there, I don't want to leave it to chance if that was really what I was doing. You know what I mean? And
that's an outstanding idea. I could approach somebody at Kraken. I could say, somebody who's not all the way up. I could say, hey, your CEO and founder, Jesse Powell, follows me on Twitter. He doesn't follow that many people, but that's cool. I think it's because him and I both hit the SEC the same and both beat both are on the winning side of history with the SEC. And we've been doing a weekly show for 230 weeks. And we would love to have, one of your representatives from Kraken come on the show and educate, thousands of people about how a truly decentralized community can accomplish what they're asking. Yeah, that'd be a really cool interview.
I think it would be, because I'd like to hear about what their plans are, what they're doing, because, I'm talking out of my butt because I really don't. I'm not a market maker on a centralized exchange. So, and I'm not a centralized exchange, so I don't have any idea exactly what their trials and tribulations would be. Just makes sense to me, right? Somebody would have to put up the value to do that. But then, the other thing that's happening is, so first, Richard did say many times, we don't need one. So, I mean, I can also lean on that and go backwards and say, hey, why even bother, right? But I do know it's a topic for people all the time. So the other angle on all of this, this new development and whatnot is, what's better than a centralized exchange? No centralized exchange. Perhaps the future is a distributed DeFi system. Not saying the base is correct or how they do things with with the Coinbase wallet, but it's pretty interesting, right? Connected to my centralized exchange, easier, not exactly seamless to transfer value in, and then I can go off and do whatever I want on whatever chain I want. So I mean, there's some merit to maybe the technology shifting in that direction, the industry.
Right.
Didn't Richard say once that he would maybe like to have a centralized exchange that he ran himself?
Yep.
Yeah, he's talked about that. Yeah, I don't know if
That
he
could be a
exactly
thing.
said central. I don't know if he exactly said centralized exchange, but
Maybe just an exchange, which now PulseX is an
he
exchange.
definitely talked about fiat onboarding at one point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you know, I don't know. I mean, sure, more things are better. Maybe more stuff from Richard's better for the OA or from Richard. The devs are better, but things are shaping up pretty good, guys. I mean, we got some people out there doing a lot of building.
Yep.
And building some good products, and you know, there's power in that distribution, right? Meaning, yeah, okay, there's always risk associated with anything individually, but in terms of like there being onboard paths, there's multiple paths on board now.
Totally. Yeah, like we have Coast that people can come straight out of fiat via like an American bank right onto Pulse Chain. We need more paths. We do need more paths onto Pulse Chain, but like once people get here,
huge fan of those guys.
Yep. Yeah, they're fighting the good fight, I believe.
Yeah, and I think like you know, some of the things like the SEC case being one that will kind of show us as we go on how much of it was like the reputation, or how much, you know, basically what was it that was leading to the gatekeeping? Was it that, yeah, nobody was paying off the right market maker, or, you know, doing the right song and dance, you know? Maybe they didn't like twerking and you know, and Red Bull can commercials, as you know, as much as something else. But I think that yeah, it's like, yeah, I think that Richard and Hex and Pulse Chain still has like a huge amount of mind share within crypto, which is pretty commend. I mean, it's pretty incredible after 5 years in crypto to be one of the cryptos to be able to say that, to be a crypto to say we're down 99%, and that there's almost as many people as active as ever in terms of like the social media reach. We got that going for us, that's for sure.
Yep. Yeah, we
Um,
definitely have a strong social media community.
Yeah.
Winning.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's all good news in terms of like looking forward to a bright future. I know I'm excited, just I'll mention again about like kind of the sequence of events that is unfolding here seems to be SEC case completely one. Then we're only, you know, 2.5, 3 weeks away from the Pulse Chain conference online. Maybe Richard will come back into streaming before the conference or during the conference, or not, but that would be really cool. And then a couple weeks after the Pulse Chain conference online, there is a Bitcoin conference in person, the biggest Bitcoin conference of the year, and that's at the end of May in Las Vegas. And so I know that we've had strong representation there. If you go back last year when Trump was speaking, Big Kurkowski and the Highest of Stakes, they bought a booth at the Bitcoin conference out of their own pocket, set up a 6-foot life-size cardboard cutout of Richard. Fashion Coder was running the you know, table the whole 3 days there in Nashville, and I even onboarded Hawk Tua into Hex and Pulse Chain before she even knew what crypto was. I handed her a cold storage coin. And so, yeah, I mean, like, then the year before that in Miami, that's the time when I had about 80 people from Hex all come to a meetup that we did there. My collarbones were broken, and so I wasn't able to party with as much as everybody else. But we had actually, because we were doing a 48-hour live stream that year to Vampire Attack, the Bitcoin conference, every time it would, like, you know, end for the day, we'd keep going. And we ended up like renting an apartment to put the YouTube studio for the 48-hour live stream. It was right next door to where crypto banter had also rented like a little hotel apartment thing. And so, you know, we've been interacting with the most important voices, well, the most popular voices, I should say, in crypto. We've been we've been running with the big dogs for a long time now. So I'm excited with the SEC stuff out of the way to see, especially with tariff wars maybe getting over, who knows by then. I think
Hard to say.
that it'd be cool to have even a smaller group than normal of like people who are, representing things the best that we can. That'd be cool to see at Bitcoin. I'll be there.
Cool. I think I'd like to see eventually that the Pulse Chain community starts setting up booths at the big conferences, right? Like there should be a mega like Pulse Chain booth at like ETH Denver, at the Bitcoin conference, at the big ones, right? It's cool that we have our own conferences and stuff. I definitely support that, the online conferences as well as the in-person conferences. But like, if we want to onboard people, like going to a place where people are already there for crypto, but not the
Right.
crypto that you represent, seems like it seems like it could be a win versus preaching to the choir, which feels great. Like, when you're either on the screen or on the stage and everybody's there because for the same reason, like it feels good. But like you're probably not bringing in as many new recruits as you could at ETH Denver.
Yeah, I think they both present like unique opportunities. Like during a time when the price isn't going to new all-time highs, conferences, they're more about like people keeping the faith and not quitting their broadcasting for Hex and Pulse Chain. And then but I would also point to like times like there are a lot of people like Whales only, he didn't get into Hex and Pulse Chain until he saw a conference. One of the online ones. And I think that there's a good number of other people that are like that, where they, like that's one of Sami's favorite talking points is, they have 2 conferences a year. That's like a box that investors tick when they're looking at how developed something is, or whether it's like continuing to stay together. So that's why I honestly, like, I've spent the last 3 years doing all of the above, like going in person to all the conferences. And but your idea about setting up booths, that's even better.
That stuff costs money, like especially at those big events. I think it'd be money well spent. I don't know where it would come from, but like like a 20 grand booth at ETH Denver with all the bells and whistles, with like prominent Hexicans and Pulsicans working at it, would be sweet. And I think you'd get a lot of volunteers to participate. But like the funds to make it happen, that would be the question. Hopefully there'd be a way to do that.
Yeah, maybe liquid loans and 9inch and other protocols that are successful, solid Hex, all that good kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe they'll go that route.
Could be. I think if there was, I don't know, if there was a donation address for something like that, and it could be just literally anonymous, and then we'd see if the coffers got filled or not. That'd be cool, because I'd like to think the opportunity that any big Hexican or Pulsican could participate and be like, yeah, we should have a booth at ETH Denver with like an itemized list of this is what things cost, and with benchmarks of like we get 10 grand, we're doing this. If we get 20 grand, we're doing this. If we get 50 grand, we're doing this, and with the exact price list of what everything costs, right? Like I think people could probably get behind something like that, and you never know who might participate in an anonymous address like that.
Right.
Just an idea off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I participate in a lot of those things in the past outside of crypto. 20 grand actually is pretty reasonable, cheap. Now, a lot of people listen and be like, it's crazy, but doesn't necessarily support, in our current state on Pulse Chain, not a lot of projects could actually support that type of investment right now. We can make a whole big argument about business, and you're going to do business planning, and of course you have to market, blah 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 blah. But you have to assume you can actually make a profit, at some point to do that. And it does put you kind of in this, like, it's no longer the grassroots type of a
No, yeah.
of a post. So I
And
think
you wouldn't want it to be protocol centric, right? Be like it'd be very nice if Liquid Loans, for example, paid for it, but like you wouldn't want the whole booth to be a Liquid Loans booth. We want a Pulse Chain booth with everything that's in Pulse Chain, right? Like
yeah, something
and
like
very
that.
few protocols would that be profitable to just participate if it wasn't dedicated to their protocol, right? And even then, like trying to pull money out of those things is a real long-term game. It's not,
Yeah. Well, of course,
weekend.
the things start rolling around in my head are things like foundations. And I don't want to get into foundation arguments, about who's a foundation, who's not a foundation, and all that kind of junk. But just the idea that it is decentralized, right? Pulse Chain's decentralized. There is no leader who's going to go do that. And so then you start getting into these arguments where it's like a big volunteer organization of people who all have opposing views. You go try to run a nonprofit. You tell me how things work out.
Oh yeah, no, it
ain't easy. It ain't easy.
Well, look, the solution has already been done. And it was when I invited like 80 to 100 people to go to the Bitcoin conference and all walk around dominating the place. And that didn't cost anything. I made shirts for people by collecting maybe $100 from each person. You had to buy a ticket to the conference yourself. And I guarantee you more people were reached than a booth. But maybe the booth would have offered a better format to like, I don't know.
Well, Big K did it too with the booth, right?
Right. He did. So,
I mean, so we give a nod to that. People have done this.
Yes.
I'm just kind of like speculating on how do you do that year over year over year over year over year?
Right.
Because you got the Maddie guys that want to do what you want to do, and then you got the Big K guys that want to do something else, and then you got the fast guys. They all want to do different stuff, and this you end up being like incohesive. And I think to understand coming in, that's how it is.
Exactly. And that's DeFi.
It's volunteers. Yeah. Volunteerism. Yep.
So in a lot of ways we're already doing this, and the how-to that Crispy just said, like, I think the how-to is by not having the corrupt SEC, like, raining on our parade, sending people like me, letters and getting our banks shut down and all this like illegal stuff that happened. Like, I think that's like my top recommendation for how we can do better in the future once we shake all this off. So.
Yeah, well, that's over at the moment, though, right? So, I mean, that's for now. That's over. So, I think focusing on what we could actually do, which is, how do you get these things organized and go?
Yeah. I think it'll organize. I think it'll happen. Just because it was already happening without anyone being in charge. But I can guarantee you that I am very abnormal in the sense that like most people would have quit YouTubing if they got harassed by the SEC to the level that I did. If I didn't have like, a legal team that kicks ass, then I would, even myself, I would not have been able to stick with it. So I think we're really lucky. And I think like if we're judging by how we've been doing up until this point, that's a really tough bar. I don't think that any crypto has really gone through what we have. So that makes me bullish.
Agreed. Sometimes I miss the centralization and stuff like that just because of my business background, right? Like it's like if you actually want to get things done in a cohesive manner, then it's like, okay, that guy's the boss and we'll do what he says and like ching, check all the boxes. And you just can't quite do it like that in DeFi. And that is frustrating sometimes. But I do see the benefit.
Well, I think you go into these things with abundance mentality in that, hey, listen, if person A wants to do it this way, they're free to do it. If a person B, she wants to do it that way, they can do it. And then it's up to them, though. It's unfortunate in some ways, right? Because we don't get the full power of everything. Because like let's say the three of us we do all have different opinions, by the way, right? But all three of us want to do something. I think people just need to understand that three of us might not agree, and we go off and do three different things, and that's not bad. I mean, I can make arguments that it takes away value, just like we were talking about the L2. But it's DeFi. You can do that. You can go do t-shirts. Maddie Bass can go set up a booth, but he's got to go figure out how to get all the people there, right? That are going to come participate in the booth. And you got to figure out how to get the people there to go walk around with your t-shirt,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but there's some really cool like street teams type stuff you could put together. I mean, that would be just kind of fun and creative, By street team, what I'm referring to is the people that would be on the street at a location to go participate. The ones that are going to set up the red carpet, and make people walk down it and scream and yell for them. Like
that stuff is fun, but I'm not sure like if it does the numbers, Like I feel like Pulse Chain is starting to boom, and like we're gonna get to a stage where to get to the next level, we need to embrace like marketing on the same kind of scale that other chains, other protocols do, and actually, start showing up at big, somebody's got to spend money, somebody's got to show up at big events and have a presence, right? Not just a presence walking around, which is cool, but I'm not sure it generates the buzz to go to, to give you 100 X's, right? Like 1,000 X's, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm not going to debate you on it because that's what I'm getting at is there's going to be different opinions about it. And so like, I value your opinion on it, and it's a cool one, but it's also a marathon, right? It's not a race. It's like, how do you do that year over year for 15 years? As an example, since Hex is a 15-year cycle, how do you participate in the Bitcoin conference every year and have a booth? How do you get that funded, and how do you do that? And that's quite an endeavor,
Totally. Yeah. It turns into a job, right? So it's like, how do you get a job done with volunteers? It's
well, that's where you start hearing about things like foundations and whatnot. But this is also where things go awry, either the people themselves or the opinion of the community, right? Because like naturally they're going to have to figure out a way to raise those funds. And so either it's going to come from somebody's pocket or people have to donate, and then that just opens up that whole other can of worms. Unless you just have a benevolent people that just decide to fund it, and then it's
that's kind of what I would hope for. Would be that like we're gonna put this wallet address up for 3 days, and hopefully someone really huge just pays for everything, and no one else has to. But maybe that's too much to wish for.
Yeah. See, I lean more towards like real businesses. So when you describe what you're describing, I'm envisioning real businesses, which we have, right? Who make the commitment, that are on Pulse Chain, that want to bring, that visibility to Pulse Chain, and they're backing that because of the business that it's doing, right? And that's what allows them to spend the 20, 40, 40 grand, which people listen might think that's funny, but it's not funny. I mean, you had some of these things, some of these conferences, every booth is 10 grand, 20 grand, every single booth. So it's not crazy. I'm not saying it makes sense to spend that money or that it even should be that expensive, but that's the market, right?
Yeah, I think it depends partly on where you are in your growth, right? Like as a chain, as a coin, all those kind of things, right? Like, sometimes it makes sense for a business to spend 40 grand on advertising, but most businesses, it doesn't make sense to spend 40 grand. So it's all relative. But anyway, I will digress on this point.
Yeah, I know. It's a good topic because you see how, and this is what's crazy about DeFi when we start talking about crypto and DeFi, all roads lead back to, we want things to be centralized, right? We talk about it. I'm not suggesting specifically that's what you want, but I mean, it's like, well, if everybody just worked together and we all listened to the same person and we all did the same thing and we all voted, oh, wait a minute. I guess that's how DAOs came into existence, huh?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just all that kind of stuff. Maybe somebody's going to make a Pulse Chain DAO. I don't know. Maybe we already have one. We just haven't seen it yet. Maybe that would be cool, right? That would be cool.
Yeah, could be Inc, could be Pulse X are already destined to be the DAO tokens, and there'll be a treasury to pay for cool stuff.
And I was thinking one that's plugged in socially, right, to do something.
All right, but like, I don't know, you need a treasury of some type for a DAO to be able to pull off events like that, and then treasuries are kind of sketchy, right? Because you have this big target potentially. And then when there's real money involved, of course you have to look at everybody a little closer. Yeah, it's a can of worms. can someone else please be in charge of this, and I will just participate at the conference? That'd be great. Thank you.
Right.
Mhm.
And like, if you ever do anything like raising funds, like tell people to donate to like stop a court battle in South Carolina against Hex, then everybody will just hate you. You might ask how I know this.
How do you know this, Matty? It doesn't sound likely. You did something good, and then people would come after you and twist your words.
Right.
How's that possible?
No way. No way.
Yeah, I was just as shocked as you are. But
Man.
that's okay. I mean, that's part of what being a leader is to just do something, even if if it's right, then sometimes you can still
listen,
do it, even if it's unpopular.
True.
yeah, that's true. Just in kind of like a general statement. If everybody agrees with you, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, you're not being ballsy enough.
It's just the way things are, and I tend to, yeah, I understand that, but that doesn't mean that people should do bad stuff, evil stuff either. So I'm not saying that, but I just get it. I get it. It's a big can of worms when you try to get stuff done, right? And one time I had a conversation very briefly on one. I think it was on Maddie's conference with Richard. And basically, this is what's going to happen. I bring up storming and norming quite a bit, and we see this in like some of the influencers that come forward, and some of the people that are doing stuff with their own free time. I'm here to do what I'm doing until I burn out. And you know what? And if I burn out, then I just go away. And you go, oh no, somebody else is. What are we going to do? Well, somebody else will come and do it. I mean, that's and if there's demand, it'll get done that way.
I don't think you're replaceable, Crispy. I'm sorry, you won't be able to retire anytime soon.
Yeah, but you know what I mean with this.
Crispy, can you explain a little bit more of the storming and norming? Because I learned that from you, even though it's a psychology thing, and I've used that with other people, and so yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. In that it's observable, right? And the storming and the norming is with any team. It has to do with teamwork. That's how I come at it, and maybe it is a psychological thing, but just the idea that every time you bring a team together, first there's conflict, like we're talking right now. Let's say the three of us decided we're going to be the guys. Right? There's going to be somebody outside of that that's going to be like, you guys are full of shit. We're not the guys. But regardless, let's just say we say we're the guys, right? And we're the ones that are going to control what happens with conferences from now on. Well, at first, Fast is thinking big table. Maddie's thinking, hey, people with T-shirts, and I'm thinking, hey, you know what? Slow burn over 15 years. The three of those don't match, right? And so that's a storming type of a phase where maybe we can have big discussions about who's really in charge here and which approach are we going to do and what rules are we going to follow, and that's a storming, right? The norming is finally us kind of working together and building enough trust, right, that we're like, hey, this is how we're doing stuff, and we're good, and for like the next year, 2 years, we move forward, and as a team we're all pulling in the same direction. And for you old people out there, that's 1 + 1 = 3, or 2 + 2 = 7, or blah, 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 right? So everybody's going the same direction, right? But then Fast retires. And we get Slow Abdul. And Slow Abdul's brand new. And all of a sudden, we're back to storming again because Slow Abdul is like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. And we're like, yeah, but we've been supporting Fast for the last 2 years, and we've been doing it this way. And now you get thrust into this whole new process of storming until the team can norm out and then move forward again. And, you can see it a lot of different ways. You could like extrapolate on that a lot in different ways. But I hope that helped you, Matt.
I think it especially applies to DeFi, to decentralized communities, where maybe as a community grows bigger and bigger, it starts to split more and more into subcultures. And but in crypto, it's really important to like figure out like, well, where's the line you know, between like what we all stand for and what some of us stand for. And that's really important because you've seen Bitcoin change. Used to be peer-to-peer cash. Now it's store of value. Now it's a banker's coin like XRP. And so yeah, so I think that the storming and norming is like incredibly important to understanding like the past and the future of like what the most productive digital currencies and assets will be.
Agreed.
It,
I agree
and
with
that
you.
it, you know, that kind of comes back to like the game theory of Bitcoin wasn't always believed. Oh, strangers on the internet, they'll agree on an Excel spreadsheet that says how much money everybody gets and has. But it just so happened that there's this brilliant like incentive mechanism and like double checking mechanism that came in and made it possible to have money that can't be copied. And but then Bitcoin split into 500 million different Joey coins and stuff like that. And so I think it's still something that's getting worked out. But yeah, like people can tune in next week and find out uh, how the community is doing then. But I think like on a positive note, I think now that the trauma has ended, like there might be a lull, and then we might have like a you know roaring participation again, like never before. So I'm particularly optimistic given the macro and given the regulatory certainty that we got out of this. So um, I'm gonna have to sign off here in the next couple minutes, but maybe maybe with the last couple minutes, you guys can um, give any updates you want to on the stuff you guys are working on, and maybe finish up the show from here.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
Awesome.
You go first, Fast. You got a lot going on your plate.
I got a couple things going on. Yeah. I think I'll start with the 2PHUX ecosystem because I've been neglecting that on streams lately. We're just about done our bribery protocol where people will be able to place and receive bribes for their votes in the PHUX and 2PHUX ecosystems. So that's going to be cool. We're doing our final sale of bribe tokens on the OX Bistro OTC. And any unsold tokens at the end of 30 days will be burnt. So that's generally bullish. And then also working on stuff for Ink Printer. So I just got back my audit today for the liquid staking protocol for the print token. And it came back all green lights. So no security concerns, no major or minor concerns. It's a pretty simple contract to tell you the truth, but we're going to have liquid staking for a Liquidity fork. For the native token, which is the print token in this case. I'm working on with the Power City guys on that because they're interested too. So that's going to be cool. And then I'm working with the Hocus Pocus team to launch an additional protocol that will be farming dedicated just for the Ink Printer protocol that will reward people with a reflections token that burns the print token effectively and rewards them with ink for holding it as the reward token. So you'll do normal farming, but then you'll get this token that if you decide to hold it, you get ink. And if you decide to not hold it, then you're burning the print token in a permanent way. So that's some new ideas that I'm playing with, but they're not just ideas. They're things we're actually doing, and they will be done relatively soon in crypto terms. So that's where we're at.
Sweet, man. I know a lot of people like that Ink D.
The Ink D, yeah. I have to make some like rap songs or something about the Ink D, which stands for Ink Dollar, by the way. But I think there could be like an Ink D rapping mascot of some type.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken a little bit of advantage of it. I think a lot of people aren't following along with the idea that the thing is, backed by Ink. Actually, Ink D, just a little bit alpha. He was interested. It's been selling at a discount to $1.
Totally. Which is actually great because it's kind of supposed to be because the redemption feature doesn't turn on for another 15 days or so. So you like right now, I think I saw it at like 92, 93 cents recently. If you bought it at 93 cents, in like when the redemption turns back on, it's going to be $1. Because that's what that feature does. There is a thing to keep the peg right now with being able to pay off your loan at a discount if you're involved with the protocol. But even if you weren't involved with the protocol and you bought it at 93 cents, as soon as redemption turns back on, it's going to be $1, if not before. So people will probably front run it and push it to $1 actually. But
it'll be close to $1. Won't be exactly $1.
Yeah, 99, 90. Yeah. No, between 98 and 98 cents and $1 and a bit is usually where these things sit. Like if I look at right now, because I have a list at all the liquidity forks on the chain, they're between 92.28 cents on Inc. dollar, and then USDL liquid loans is 99.77 cents, right? So very, very close to, and actually PXDC is $1 even right now. So they do tend to be between 98 cents and $1 typically.
Yeah, I follow that as well. I concur with your assessment. Pet Finesse is funny. He says liquid staking protocol could be abbreviated as a LISP. That's kind of, some people say I speak with a LISP.
I'm going to choose not to do that.
Yeah. Hey, for me, I've been working on mostly educational stuff. Tool stuff, I'm really interested right now in digging as deep as I can into actuator and the actuator protocol, and that's something we've talked about here periodically, and that's kind of it's really like I call it a hex super bond. Of course, this isn't maxi super max. I'm in hex only native staking type stuff, but an HSI protocol that you can actually make it HSIs. Or use existing HSIs, borrow against it, and put that to work. So the whole protocol out there. So that's been pretty cool to dig into, because with Hex, and this is all on Pulse Chain, I don't get a very high APR, but currently I can get a pretty high APR, both on my initial swap into that system, because it's backed by Hex. It's 1-to-1. I guess I don't want to get into all the details here, but it's backed 1-to-1. Anyways, there's some opportunities. So if anybody wants to look at actuator finance, I would recommend taking a look at that. The other big topic for me has been I'm getting more technical into contract creation and what that looks like. So and I know you're doing that too, and that I've been digging into these tax tokens, reflection tokens, bots for ARBs, all that type of stuff. Just so nowhere near professional, just trying to understand more about what's going on around us, because one of the observations I made a while back is that it appears to me like 50% of the transactions are less than a penny that are taking place. And so what is that all about, and how is that happening? And a big part of that, of course, ARBs. So.
Bots. Yeah, nobody's arbing for half a penny unless you're a bot and you can do it. So
yeah. Not as a person. So I'm super interested in that, and I know there are people working towards bringing true DeFi market making types of applications over. You can kind of approximate that with V3s. That type of thing where you set up as a market maker, you set up a band and you try to maintain the band. And that's not instrument playing band, but the trading band. A high and a low ratio, and then, but without some sort of technology, you got to do that by hand, right? Or you've got to use something like a grid method, where you actually go V3 and set up a whole bunch of positions on either side to try to catch what you want. Anyways, those are two areas of expertise that I've been digging into lately. And one of the groups that's doing that, there's actually two groups trying to bring market making to fruition. I think one of them is going to make it sooner than the other. I know the UpX guys have a new protocol coming out that they've been talking about called LPX. Everybody do your own research, guys, right? And I'm not saying go and dig into this stuff and go jump in, but do your own research. But they have LPX, that's one. And then Stu I think he was here in the chat. I don't know if he's still here, but I think they're getting super close with
Tetra's getting pretty close, and I think it will by default have some market making implications for sure. So,
yeah, and I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, and and for people listening, Richard's advice, my experience so far has been hold, just time in the market, staking enhances that. That has been my easiest, best play ever. However, I also recognize a lot of the stuff going on, but somebody's got to make the markets, right? And so I take my Hex Maxi hat off for a moment. Somebody's got to make these markets, and there's a lot of inefficiency in the market. So there's a lot of opportunities. So there are people working on it. That's all I'm saying. There's people working on doing things. They're putting up their value. They're risking their value. You don't have to put up your value to risk it. What I'm just saying that there's tools that are out there that when they work properly, they're gonna hopefully make the system much more, much more efficient.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's going to be important. And if protocols do the market making themselves and use it to boost their protocol rather than random arbitrage bots taking it, there is a benefit. So I think LPX is looking at stuff like that. I think I'm supposed to have a meeting with someone about it at some point. So we'll maybe report back on that. Hey, quick shout out to Somi in the chat. He's asked us about dip catchers layer 2 that uses EHEX. We covered that in the first half of the show, though we haven't done a deep dive yet.
Yeah, well, I'm not even aware of a $3.5 million sacrifice, but
I'm not either.
The thing about doing these types of things, somebody's got to run the servers, right? There's real space. Now, is that 3.5 million? I don't know what's going on, right? But somebody's got to build all this infrastructure and support it. So, yeah.
Mike is asking about PulseX V1.3. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, actually, that came out today. I'm not aware of what the changes are, Mike. I did see it. I know that it came out and it was released today. So for those people who download that software, you might want to go check out the latest version. I didn't see any notes or anything on it, so I don't know if it's what's new about it. But I did go check.
I don't think there's new farms or anything like that.
No, I didn't see any. I went and looked. So
I don't think they've turned Ink into a DAO token or any of the things I was hoping for.
Maybe they will. Yeah.
Maybe.
So, all right, where can people find you, Mr. Fast?
Just about everywhere, Crispy, but easily on Twitter under @FastAbdul, as it appears on the screen, or via my 2 websites, 2phrx.io or inkprinter.com. That's incprinter.com. How about you, Crispy Man?
How about me? You can find me on both Twitter and on YouTube at Hexfire.io. All right. And so with that, everybody, I think we're going to go ahead and check out and say thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Maddie, for hosting. And we'll see you. Oh, wait. What's the tagline? Stake wisely, my friends.
Oh, that's a good one.
Is that how it ends? All right. All right, everybody. Stake wisely. And we'll head out.
We made the music today. Nice.
I figured out how to put the information up.
We're usually off the screen when the music comes on, though.
I know.
We're still on the screen.
Well, I don't know Maddie's system. He's got so much different stuff.
It's a little bit awkward. I feel a little bit awkward now.
You feel that way? All right, I'm taking you off.